Howdy-o. These are some books whose endings pissed me off. The first book is Jane Eyre. It's about this dame who's an orphan, but then when she gets older, she becomes a governess. And governesses are basically like the Victorian version of nannies. You know, they look after kids, they educate them. It's basically private tutors. And she's doing like a pretty bang-up job as a governess, I guess. But there's one issue with her governess position, and that's the owner. Now, this is like the love interest. His name's Mr. Rochester, and bro has a couple red flags. Now, the first fucking thing Jane ever says about him is how he's ugly. And if I was smarter, I would have counted every time in the book, but I think it's at least like 10 times they mention he's not a good-looking dude. At one point, he disguises himself as a fortune teller. They used a Romani slur. I'm not going to use it, but, you know, that's the deal. And he gives her fortune, and as part of it, he asks, "Oh, do you like anyone? Do you perhaps like Mr. Rochester?" And she's like, "Nah, not really." Even though, you know, at that point, she kinda might a little, you know, it's tough to know, but it's like fucked up that he, you know, pretended to do that or whatever. He also gets a full-on engagement to another woman and almost goes up to the point of the wedding. And he says it was just to make her jealous. So bro's playing like 500 IQ mind games instead of just like asking her out. Fucking idiot. But they do eventually, you know, they get engaged. And when they're just about to get married, it comes out Broski already has a wife. And this wife, he keeps her locked up in his house because she's crazy, man. Anyways, because of that, you know, the marriage can't go through. Jane needs to leave. And she does. She sets off on her own. She's left with pretty much nothing. She finds some people. They give her some help. And eventually she gets set up with a decent position. She's like a school teacher at this one town. And, you know, it's decent. But one day she inherits a massive fucking fortune. It's like 50,000 pounds. And Broski is like rich now. So she can do whatever she wants with her life, pretty much. And the first thing she does is like separate the money. So she gives it to her cousins or whatever. So she only has 12,500. But, you know, that's fine by her, and it's still more than she ever needs. So what's she going to do with her life? Well, bad news. Broski comes flying back into the picture. She runs into Rochester again, and since leaving him, his mansion burned down. So he's blind. He couldn't really have gotten uglier because he was already like the ugliest motherfucker in the world, apparently. And Jane, seeing him, decides, I'm going to marry him, but it's going to be on like my own terms. I'm not bridging a class divide by marrying him since I'm rich too now. And he's actually like the decrepit one. And, you know, it's cool for her that she has economic independence because you don't really see that much with women of the time period. But with that economic independence, it would have been cool if she had like used it to do something other than run back to fucking Red Flags McGee over here. Yeah, it's just sad. Now, the second book is Little Women. It's about some little women growing up in the Civil War. You got Meg, who's the oldest. You got Jo, who's the swaggest. You got Beth, who's the shy one. And you got Amy, who's the youngest. And honestly, I don't remember anything about Amy. She's kind of boring. But, you know, they grow up in the Civil War era and they deal with like wacky coming of age stuff. Like coping with the absence of their father, having their first Christmas without him because he's off fighting the war. And, you know, having some fun going on. I think they eat ice cream at one point. And like I said, Jo's the standout character. And she does some wacky stuff too. So she sells her hair because the family needs money, and she writes a novel. And that's pretty cool, even though she's like not happy with the reception of the novel. But it's still insane because she's like 16 when she writes it or whatever. And, writing a novel at all as a woman in the 1800s, wacky shit. But see, Little Women, it's one book, but it started as 2 books. It's 2 volumes. And the second volume is where shit hits the fan. Now, Meg, the oldest, she gets married and she has twins. And, that's fine for her. Beth dies. Amy also gets married, and that's cool for her or whatever. She gets married to this boy that they were like all friends with, so good for her. But what does Joe get up to? Because, Joe, well, the way I see it, I definitely think Joe's gay. Like, Joe did not seem straight when I was reading that book, and that could just be like projection or whatever, reading too much into it, but I feel like it's a fair assumption. So the way I saw it, Joe had a couple options. She could, say, shack up with a fly dame. That's not really an option since, it is the 1800s. But she could also have just continued writing and just made her own as an author, which would have been pretty cool for her. But that's not the path that's set out for Joe. You see, Joe marries a fucking old-ass German professor, man. He's 39 years old. He's not rich. He's poor. So, it's not like she's getting anything out of marrying him besides love. Fucking gross. This was actually the first book I ever stopped reading partway through because I hated this so much. Like, Joe should have done better than this fucking man. And speaking of doing better, I thought Joe ex Amy's husband was a pretty decent ship. Like, it's not the one I would have gone for. I was thinking Joe ex unmentioned female love interest. Because, let's be honest, she definitely is gay still. But, it's whatever. Now, the third book is Romeo and Juliet. Now, I'm not going to bother summarizing this one because everyone knows this one already. You got Romeo and you got Juliet. And you might be thinking, my big issue is that Romeo and Juliet die. Nah. That's not my fucking issue. Because I don't really care about what these two had. It's whatever. Now, my issue is that, you see, Romeo had a really fucking hot friend, Mercutio. Mercutio, he's like Romeo's ultimate homeboy. He's the one who's telling him, hey, bro, I see you're all enamored with these dames, but you gotta focus on the prize. You can't go running off. You gotta stay safe. And especially, you can't go getting messed up with the Capulets and stuff. I'm worried about you, man. You're my best bud, and I want your safety. And I thought that's really beautiful of him. But if you are going to go and chase after these dames, I'm going to help. I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to protect you if you need protecting because I care about you. You are my number one. You are my shining light. And that's beautiful. And maybe if Romeo had been less concerned with chasing dames, he could have seen the real prize that was right in front of him. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen Romeo plus Juliet, but like Romeo and Mercutio in that movie, God, they look good together. Okay. But see, the problem is that Mercutio does stand by his boy. He stands by his boy too much. He stands by his boy. He dies for Romeo. He goes to heaven because he gets messed up with Tybalt. And Romeo didn't deserve that much love, let's be honest. But it's just sad to me that I can't deal with it. I just thought it's sad that, we lose Mercutio before they even get to kiss. And they wanted to kiss, let's be honest. But yeah, that's the end of the presentation. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed the video. I promise this is not the only thing I've been working on. Thank you.